Get ready! Kristina's live stream is about to start!
On the grind, getting paid, flipping locks, never fade. Downsizing dreams, but the vision never swayed. Living large, small space, tiny homes and new craze. Stacks on stacks, making rules in these real estate waves. Manufactured magic, on land it's elastic. Cost cut tactics, but living ain't tragic. Mortgage demons slain, payments ain't passive. Affordability, modern life, that's classic. Tiny homes, big dreams, stacking up the cream. Modular escapes, not just what it seems. Locks in a box, making mad streams. Affordable palace fitting in the beams. Kristina on the stream, showing schemes to the team. Tiny living planes, soaring high supremes. Locks in a box, making mad streams. Affordable palace fitting in the beams.
I hope you guys were jamming out. I was. Happy Sunday. We're going to be talking about where prices are predicted to fall. Some of the cities may surprise you. Some of them may not. We talked about last week what some of the most affordable cities were in the United States. This week, we're going to be talking about where home prices are about to drop. I don't make these predictions. This is what comes from other articles and other experts in the field. So don't shoot the messenger is what I'm getting at. I want to get your opinion on what you think if this is true when we go over each one of these cities. And of course, during the stream, if you have any questions that are real estate related, you're more than welcome to ask any question you want that is real estate related. Another thing too is we don't have any calls this week. So the reason why the poll question reads like it does is I love sharing your voice here on this channel. So if you're interested in having your real estate question answered with your own voice, and that way I can get your inflection on the words correct. And sometimes I read terrible, by the way. So that way your question is answered clearly and I don't misread it. You can always call the phone number, the 888-255-0197. Call that and you'll get an AI voice of my voice answering the call, and you can leave a message there. If you don't want your name said, just say, when they ask for your name, just say no name. Just leave it at that. Just leave that as your name, no name. So that's fine. We can do that too. But I love hearing your questions. I love sharing your voice on this channel. So if you want to do that, go ahead and do that. Again, that number is 888-255-0197. So without any further ado, I want to say welcome to Lawnmower and Onyx and Kevin and Too Evil and Charlton. Man, you are here every week. Thank you so much. J.A. is here and let me put on my glasses, man. San Junipero. I hope I said that right. Kansas City, already prices are dropping a little bit at least. They are here in Baton Rouge too. I believe we're not in the reasonable, not even close to reasonable, but at least sellers are in the mindset of being more negotiable. As you know, the market was so crazy there for a while and sellers were unnegotiable. And then buyers were in a predicament at that time of like, okay, we want to win the deal. So we'll just forego homeowners home inspection, which was crazy to me. Like it made me so incredibly nervous when buyers were willing to just let go of a home inspection. And if the appraisal came in not right, they were willing to pay over what the appraised amount. Like freaked me out. But maybe some of these chickens are coming to roost in some of these cities. So without further ado, hey, Overjoyed, it's good to see you. Hey, Kelly, it's good to see you too. Oh, we don't have a guest today, by the way. Debbie Brady's here too. The condo market is a dumpster fire here in Florida. When Eddie puts up this article, I'm going to ask you guys something. So with the recent storms that have happened throughout the United States, and they're affecting more and more areas, and they're becoming more devastating, do you think that it's possible that more people are going to, sell their homes in these coastal areas, these coastal states, and say, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to pay these insurance premiums anymore. I'm going to sell and I'm going to move somewhere else that doesn't have as much inclement weather. I think it's possible. I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, and her sister was going to go ahead and sell her house. You know, she had just gotten her home fixed up from another hurricane. It took over a year. And then now she has all this damage from Helene. So she's like, I can't do it anymore. I'm going to fix this up and sell it. I think it's possible. Hey, thank you so much. Housing market change depending on who wins the election. They say that every year. And do you know what happens? The market dictates what the market's going to do. I have been doing this now. I've been formally licensed since 2008, but I've been doing this since 2007. And every time there's election year, they always say the housing market is dependent on, you know, who gets elected. The thing is that the housing market is dependent on us as consumers, whether we buy or sell, period, end. How much they sell for is up to the customers. You can blame the appraisers, you can blame the real estate agents, you can blame everybody. But if the house is overpriced and the market is unwilling to pay that price, then the prices come down. If the house is underpriced, then we have bidding wars. If we have a shortage of supply, then you have more bidding wars. If there's oversupply, then the price of homes come down. Period. End. Doesn't matter who sits on the throne. Period. So I don't want everybody to get scared. I see all these things that are floated around to scare people from making decisions for their life. Like, oh, I have to wait. Like there's this old saying, like, you never buy a house during election year. Why the hell not? You know, a lot of people waited because, you know, like you don't buy during election year. And then, 3-4 weeks ago, mortgage rates were down and now they're up again. The president doesn't dictate the housing market. You know, they can make policies that affect the housing market. But you know, it's whatever happens on the day that election day doesn't matter. The housing market is going to move either one way or the other. So anyways, I just read somewhere that 67% of voters are upset about something and won't vote for the other candidate. Whatever, you know, exactly, lawnmower, exactly. I like Kristina, but love Eddie because he was the contractor roofer. Yep, my dad had me helping in roofs at 12. Yeah. Well, let's not talk about child labor laws there. That's not good. You shouldn't be on a roof at 12. Maybe you're just handing up. I'm just going to imagine that you're just handing up the nails on the ladder, but not on the roof. Yeah, Eddie's great. Eddie is a good guy. I don't know if you guys know what Eddie looks like, but I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. This is what he looks like. Exactly like what he looks like. He got me this for Valentine's Day several years ago. It's a bobblehead of himself. Anyways, Eddie, if you could put up that article, I greatly appreciate it, please. Closing on my first home. Yay! A 3-bedroom, 1,500 square foot home and 0.43 acres. Yeah, that's not too big. That's not too big. Perfect size yard, man. You can get a nice little garden going there if that's what you're into. So this is what the article says. 5 housing markets that will plummet in value before the end of 2025. Oh, hello, shouting out from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So happy you do this. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming into the stream. Yep. This is right here in Baton Rouge. Yep. In certain markets, particularly Texas, there actually been more recent decline depending on the buyer demand, supply, and other economic factors. What do you know? We were just talking about that. Some housing markets could plummet in value within the next 12 months or so. Let's take a look. If you are a buyer, lower housing prices is a good news, and it means you're more likely to get a good deal and maybe even more negotiating powers with sellers. If you're a seller, you may want to put your home on the market before it loses value or wait until your local real estate market rights itself again. Whatever the case may be, here are 6 housing markets that experts believe will lose value before 2025. They don't say who the experts are, by the way. All right, so they're saying Dallas is going to come down in price. The median price currently is $390,000, which is still under the national average. The median price change year over year is 2.3%. Average days on the market is 42 days on the market, which isn't extremely high, by the way. That's pretty normal. Dallas, Texas is one of the housing markets where prices have already started to go down and could continue to do so. In Dallas, affordability has become a serious concern, said Levi Rogers, a real estate broker and founder of VA Loan Network. High home prices paired with current high rates are leading fewer buyers in the market, he continued. This could result in a price correction over the next 12 months. The next one is San Antonio. Again, the median price there is not bad. $268 is pretty way under the national average, way under. And it's the median price change over the last year has been 2.7%. Average day on the market is 46 days on the market. 46 days on the market is not bad. Also in Texas, the city of San Antonio has a similar downward trend in home values in the past year. There has been strong growth, but with high rates and the surge of new home construction, supply outpaced demand right now, said Rogers. Okay, how many times have I told you? If you live in an area that has a ton of new construction, you're more likely to see home prices come down and come down more quickly than in areas that do not have a lot of new construction. It's a supply issue. You got a bunch of vacant houses. The builders have to come down on their price or they offer more incentives. That makes people that have already existing homes have to come down on their price because the new construction, they have to compete. So then all of a sudden prices start coming down in those areas because of new construction. All right. Was this one a surprise to you? It was to me, especially because it is already pretty affordable in San Antonio. Yeah, negative 2.7. Yes, Eddie, I got it. He wanted me to reiterate that. Oh, this is when supply outpaces demand, home values tend to decline. No kidding. This is especially common when homes sit on the market for longer. Given this, Rogers expects San Antonio housing market to cool off even more by 2025. Is he the only expert that we're referring to? Okay, here, let's go to the next city. Austin, Texas. Now this city, if you remember back before, during COVID, that was the hottest city to go buy. I mean, everybody and their brother was moving to Austin, Texas. If you had a real estate license and you were a realtor in Austin, Texas, you didn't have to do much to get home buyers to go look at houses. That's for sure. You know, it was wild. People were going crazy. Now, the median price there in comparison to San Antonio, it was like, what, $263 in San Antonio? Now it's $548 in Austin, Texas. That's like over $100,000 more than the median price as the national average. So the median price change year over year is negative 0.45%, which isn't that much. It didn't go down that much. Average days on the market, though, 67. So this 67 is getting in the higher range. While home values haven't declined much in Austin, the typical days on the market is for over 2 months. That's a sign of potentially cooling housing market. Yes, it is. Austin's market skyrocketed during the pandemic, particularly with the tech boom. But now you're seeing prices stabilize. I think some people are having to sell too because a lot of companies had to return to office. And so they had to go sell their house. Austin's market skyrocketed. All right, Eddie, scroll down a bit. He predicts that Austin will continue to see prices decline as more new developments crop up and housing interest rates remain high. If you are interested in the Austin housing market, there's two channels that I want you to look at. One is Angie Ufomata, UFOMATA is how you say it, Ufomata. Ufamata. She'll be here next week, by the way. And she's a good Austin, Texas real estate resource for you. Another one is Jeremy Knight. He did one about zombie neighborhoods. I don't know if you've heard about this. It's neighborhoods that were started by developers and they went bankrupt, and all these new construction homes are sitting vacant. That happened a lot in back in the early days of 2008. I saw it a lot in Florida. That was very common in Florida. So anyways, let's scroll down a little bit. I can see Austin taking a hit, that's for sure. All right, next is Phoenix, Arizona, another city that was hit by the last housing crash, by the way. Not that this is anywhere near like what we saw back in 2008. The median price is $450,000. That is with the national average of the median price. Median home price change is plus 2.4%. The average stay on the market is 51 days. Interestingly, home prices are actually up in Phoenix, Arizona. That said, some real estate experts still believe the housing market could take a turn in a couple months. Okay, scroll down. Why? Why are they saying it could take a turn? Yeah, I know, plus 2.4%. Okay, Phoenix has had a big housing boom during the pandemic, but now there's less demand for more homes for sale. An experienced house flipper founder, Michigan said, Michigan house cash for sale, whatever. As is the case in other U.S. housing market where the supply is high and demand is low, this could lead to decline in prices. Given last year's performance in Phoenix, it could go the other way. I don't know about that. I'm not in that Phoenix market. I have to talk about that. I don't know. I have to talk to somebody from there. This one was interesting to me. Boise, Idaho was one of those areas that exploded just as much as Austin, Texas. I had no idea there was a big rush to move to this specific city. I was clueless, totally clueless that this was a hot spot. And they had the biggest shift when interest rates started going up. And I started hearing from people, it was like somebody turned the lights off. Matter of fact, I had an agent on here at that time that said it was very strange. The one thing that they still had going, though, anything that was under, like in that more affordable housing market range, the more affordable homes, those were still flying off the market within 5 to 6 days. I mean, those were moving quickly. But anything that was over the median price, the national average, they were sitting a little bit longer. So I wouldn't be surprised if this had a little bit more of a price correction. But look, it says median price is $490. Median price change is actually went up 3.2%. Average days on the market is 29 days. That's not a long time. But it says, like Phoenix, Boise has seen a price hike in recent years. Nevertheless, the city could shift before the end of 2025. Boise saw home prices rise quickly in a few years, but now Eddie's got it cut off. I can't read the rest. Eddie, I'm going to scroll up. Eddie, scroll up. I bet she's watching football. Boise saw home prices rise quickly in the last few years, but now that's slowing down. If interest rates remain high, they predict fewer people will be buying homes in the area. This could lead to a further decline in prices. All right, we got to keep our eyes on this one. I'm not buying that. All right, let's scroll down. Is there one more, Eddie? I think there might be one more. Oh, so these are other housing markets where prices plummet. There's no guarantee as to whether or not housing markets will plummet or rise in the value in the future. But there are signs to look for, including recent trends in the local housing market, buyer demand, supply, including new construction, average time homes stay on the market, mortgage interest rates. Rising rates tend to mean fewer buyers and vice versa. But there are a few obscure signs. Hello. All right, Eddie didn't want me to read that. But there are a few more obscure signs as well, both predicting falling housing prices in the following states. Florida, and this is where I think Florida might see some price reductions. Their cost of insurance, the cost of property taxes, the cost to rebuild, the cost of any kind of damage you've done to the house. because of weather-related events. I think there's going to be more people selling their houses in Florida. I could be completely wrong about this, but that's what my gut is telling me. It says Florida prices will be likely fall because of oversupply of homes on the market due to the increased building, new condo regulations leading to HOA increases, and higher flood insurance policies. Yeah, I didn't think about that, the flood insurance policies as well. California home prices could decline because of its high tax rate, higher crime rate, and decreasing job market, combined with an increase in remote work opportunities and more people leaving the state. Washington home values could fall for similar reasons to what's happening in California. So I want to know your opinion on this. What do you think? If there's any opinion of you think of those cities, or you think there's a city that's probably going to get hit even worse, let me know in the comment section and we'll take a look at it and see how many days on the market homes are sitting on there. Overjoyed said, "Is Eddie's in the middle of cleaning litter boxes?" That is so funny. He's obsessed with litter boxes. And we have the self-cleaning ones, but he still every night has to check the litter boxes. That's so funny. Boise peeps were bitter about Californians moving in tech, moving in. They were online during the pandemic ranting. Oh, was it? I did not know that. I didn't know that. Tom says, don't forget baby boomers are downsizing and using any profits for retirement. You know, Tom, that's what they have been saying for years. But what they're finding, and because I follow this quite well, a lot, what they're finding is that baby boomers are holding on to their assets. Not only are they keeping their primary house, they're buying another house, like a vacation house. And that sometimes we'll even one on top of that. The largest group of people buying houses during the pandemic wasn't millennials, it wasn't Gen X, it was baby boomers. And it was usually a second and third home because the interest rates were so low. And they're holding on to it. There's an average of some estimates say like 10 million to 15 million homes across the United States that are vacant. And people go, oh, why are they vacant? Why are they holding on to these homes? They're vacant because they only live there for a period of time, like only 6 months or even 3 months, because they go into these different areas around the country and they use those houses as their place to stay, always stay. They would rather maintain that property than have like an Airbnb, for instance. And they like their homes. Now, if you get into more price restricted families, of course, they are looking to downsize and they're looking to, get into a smaller home. The problem with that is that the cost of homes has gone up so much, even that smaller house with the price of, with the interest rates the way they are right now, and the cost, how much it's been elevated, that smaller home isn't going to equal out for them. So a lot of times they're just saying, you know what, I'm going to age in place. So a lot of them are staying put. Even though the house is too big for them, it's just they can't afford to move. So they're stuck there. That's very common. Aging in place has been talked about for the last 3 years. So they said that there was going to be like this silver tsunami of people that were going to sell their houses and move to Florida, and that did not come to fruition. It has not come to fruition. Yeah. Anyways, Kevin Garrett says, question, what is your recommendation on the way to get an appraisal of a new home? To get an appraisal on a new home, moral to the story, I have a wooded parcel and I need to clear and develop out a pocket. Curious about the equity and appreciation. I would definitely get an appraisal done. And what they could do is take an average of what's sold in that area for what you're wanting to do to your house. You can give them the plans of your house ahead of time. If you're getting a loan, you're going to be required to get an appraisal ahead of time anyways, because they don't want you to overbuild for the area. And they're not going to lend you the money if it's overbuilt for the area. And it doesn't fall in line with the area because it's too much of a risk if you default. So yes, absolutely get an appraisal done. Now you can hire this one on your own if you're doing it before you get a loan, or you can do that when you get your new construction loan if that's what you're planning on doing. There's plenty of really good appraisers out in the area. I would find the one like when everybody says, oh, that that appraiser's the deal killer. Call that one, because he's going to be the most realistic. Every single time that I've ever heard a real estate agent in my life that say, oh no, you've got that person as your appraiser, that's the deal killer. And it's not the deal killer. It's the one that's being more realistic on the price of the house than, not willing to like pencil in some arbitrary number to make it work for the loan amount, So, find the appraiser that's called the deal killer in your area. That one's the one that's going to be realistic. Two Evil says, loan broker qualified me for a conventional residential instead of a mixed use commercial loan. How the heck would I do? How the heck would I know? Made a deal then now to find new financing. Seriously mad. Any suggestions? Find a new loan officer. I don't know why they would do that either. Not only that, if you're getting a commercial loan, do you have an LLC? Are you doing this through a company? Do you have any paperwork in financing that you need to be sending to that loan officer? And maybe that's why they were confused. I'm not sure. I have a mixed use property for one of our rentals, and we did it through an LLC. So, or is it an S corp? Eddie, is an S corp or an LLC? If you guys don't know, Eddie's the producer in the background, also my husband extraordinaire.
LLC.
Yeah, it's an LLC. Thank you. I always get those confused because we had an S corp before. Maggie Smith said, question, is there is the new thing of having to pay the buyer's fee nationwide? Oh yeah, it's across the United States. Anywhere that has any person that you work with that says realtor, it has to follow these rules. Anybody that works for a brokerage has to follow these rules. And what it is that the seller no longer is offering a fee to the buyer's agent to bring them a buyer. Now, that doesn't mean that the seller won't pay your agent's fee. That's just part of the negotiation process. So you can negotiate with the seller to pay that fee. Now, when you're working with a real estate agent that is your buyer's agent, that negotiation for the compensation will be done with that buyer's agent prior to you finding a house. If the seller, let's just say, for instance, if the seller was going to give you 3%, but you only negotiated for 2%, that buyer's agent is still only getting 2%. They're not going to get the extra amount of money that was going to be offered by the seller. So I just want to make that clear. Now, some states have it a little bit wonky. We're still ironing out the policies and procedures because every state has been addressing this a little bit differently. But the paperwork for that should be done prior to you even looking at houses. One thing you need to be aware of too is if you plan on calling any agent under the sun, they're going to ask for you to negotiate that before they open the doors to the house. You have to have that before you start opening and showing houses. They have to do it. The brokers are requiring every person that you work with before you open up any door to show them the house. This doesn't include open houses, but this includes, if you call off a sign, you have to have that signed before you walk in the house. So Kyle is I try to get him on at least once a month because he's my expert in mortgages, all things mortgages. He was on last week. Kyle was. If you guys have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat. And also, I'm gonna promote this one more time. If you're looking to have your question answered and you want to hear your voice on the live stream, I have an answering service. Yes, it's done by AI. It's 888-255-0197. You get an AI voice, Kristina. Somebody said I sounded angry. Other people just said I sound flat. Flat, no giggling. And you can leave your message there and I will put it up on this live stream so you can hear your voice and ask your question live. It's the best way I could do like a call-in show. without having the headache of trying to screen every single person that comes in. Because I tried to do this one time where, you could literally call in live, and it was a complete nightmare. I don't know if Lawnmower was on that call, but that was several years ago. Never to be happened again. Never to be happened again. Charlton, here we go. Question. When they say median price, are they saying square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms with a basement and garage? They're saying like, okay, to calculate the median price, you you list all the home price sales in the specific area from the highest to lowest, and then the price falls exactly in the middle of the list is the median price. Especially essentially it's the price where the half of the houses are sold for more and half are sold for less. So yeah, it's just a bucket of all the houses, every single one of them in a specific area that have sold in like the last 90 days or in the last 30 days. It depends on how they're gauging it. And then that's the median. I'm not gonna say their name, but every single time they do a video, they always say the medium. And I know they're saying medium, not median. And it like drives me up the wall. They're not a real estate agent. So I'm totally fine with it, but they're a finance channel and they keep saying medium price home. Oh, why are you doing that? I mean, I've messed up words before too, but it's consistent. And even their comment section will say, it's median. Maybe they're doing it on purpose. Maybe it creates more engagement. We're coming up on the end of hurricane season in Florida too. So people may relax for a bit unless the insurance companies start getting more ruthless with their rates. So the insurance business isn't our friend. And you're going to see more and more stories, because I've seen it here in Louisiana with the numerous amounts of hurricanes that we've had here, is they will drag their feet as long as possible to get a claim done. And what really, really throws a wrench in it is if you've had a hurricane that came through that caused hurricane damage and then a flood came through at the same time, you're playing volleyball back and forth, because the insurance company, their insurance people are saying, oh, well, that was caused by a hurricane. And then the typical homeowners insurance is saying, oh, no, that was caused by flood. And it's a full-time job to get these people to pay what they're supposed to pay to cover your house. I know people that had full-on folders, 3-ring binders of every conversation that they ever had with their insurance companies, adjusters. They printed out every single email because it became so incredibly ridiculous. I mean, I knew one lady, it took 3 years for them to finally write out the check for her to get her home fixed. She sat there living in her house in a pop-up trailer. And then inside her house, she had a refrigerator and everything else in there to make dinners, but it was all stripped. It was just a stripped out house. It had electricity, but no drywall, no flooring, no nothing. So she would just go in there and make her dinners and sit there in her empty house until these insurance companies paid. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So Tom said, no sign of decline anywhere on the West Coast. Supply is low for the 1.5 million where I live. Tom, I have to ask, is the 1.5 million, is that on the lowest end for your specific area? Or is that upper, lower? I don't know how to say that. So let's just say the lowest priced homes in your area are 500,000. Would 1.5 be the upper part of the lower end? That made sense. That made sense. Oh, Overdrone said, I had automatic litter boxes, but sometimes they get stuck and need a human intervention to keep operating. If anybody doesn't know, don't laugh at me, I have 9 cats. So occasionally my cats will come up. I have a cat that looks just like her right there. But this is a fake cat. I don't know if you guys knew that. That's not a real cat. That's just a stuffed animal. So D-Jack says, Question: when is Kyle from the Midwest coming back on? Asking for a friend. I don't know. I'm hoping. So Kyle offered to meet me in Pennsylvania. If you guys are interested in modular homes, I'm going to a modular home convention at the end of October, from October 28th to the 30th. I'll be speaking there, talking about how modular homes could help with the affordability crisis in the United States. It's one of the, I think, big puzzle pieces that need to be involved. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And Kyle said he's going to meet me up there because it's not too far of a drive. It's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he and I are going to hang out, pal around, and then maybe we could have him come on in a week or two after that, so that way he can give his input on what he learned about modular home construction. An interesting thing I saw is somebody was showing homes being built in Washington, and all these houses were, they did not have the Tyvek on there, and they were all getting drenched, and they were like, oh, this is rainy season here in Washington. Do you know that if they would just adopt modular home construction, they could have that house built, completely built from top to bottom in 9 days flat, right? And then the day that they did have a break in the rain, they could connect that house together and have it wrapped, completely wrapped in 1 day. You wouldn't even have to worry about mold exposure and the moisture on all that wood. That blows my mind that we are not doing more of that here in the United States. I can't wrap my head around it. It makes the process of getting a home built so much faster, and it's built to the same, if not better, building code. I'm obsessed with modular homes. I wish we'd do more of them, but anyways, that was beside the point. I went on a tangent there. I don't even know what we were talking about. I don't know what we were talking about. Onyx says I have 9 cats. Yeah, I have 9 cats and 3 dogs. Smalls is on point when the Magoo glasses come out. Yeah. I'm looking for my square ones. I can't find them. I have these square ones, and I like them better because the top is flat, so it's easier for my eyes to go over the top. I like those better. I don't know where I put them. I had 2 pairs, and I have like 3 pairs like around here of these circle ones. They're all sitting on my desk. There's another one over there. Like, you can see them. You guys have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat. Eddie will put them up on the screen. Maggie says, question, I live 25 minutes from a national park. Is there a market, and how should that be marketed? Is there 25 minutes? Well, it's an incentive to the home buyer, like whenever you're putting your description of your property together, that's a selling point to your home, that it's only 25 minutes from a national park. I would definitely write that in the description of the video. And then when you're doing your video for your property itself, I would also include that in the video and showing some aspects of that national park and then I don't know what price range you're in, but millennials and Gen Z really love dog parks and anything that involves an animal. So when you're doing that marketing, I would show if there's a dog park there or there's hiking trails that are animal friendly. So that way you can include that into your marketing as well. It's just one more bonus for somebody that is looking for a house in your area, especially if you're in that price range that would be focused towards that age group. In Western Washington, rainy season is anytime between January 1st and December 31st of the same year. Yeah, I believe it. That sounds like South Louisiana. We have a lot of rainy days here. In Pennsylvania, as a Commonwealth, each township has a different zoning, no state zoning code. Oh, that's interesting. I did not know that. I learned something new today. Is that true of so each city gets to decide how each area is zoned, or how does that work? I'll have to look that up. That's very interesting. Because I was looking at Pittsburgh last week because that was the #1 most affordable area to move to in the United States. And I noticed that like you would have a whole city area, right? And then 10 minutes outside of the city, it looked like rural. I was shocked. And then the older subdivisions had like 1 or 2 acres. I was like, oh, wouldn't that be nice just to have a little house and 2 acres? So nice. Overjoyed said modular homes and pre-poured concrete would speed up the building process. They use pre-poured concrete in the villages. Ooh, that's interesting. I did not know that. Those sandy lots in the villages would be easier to put the pre-poured foundations down, but it would not work here in Louisiana. We have such weird ground. It goes from complete, like, you remember when we were scared of quicksand as a kid here? If it rains enough here and you walk on the ground, you will sink and your boot will get stuck. It is complete mud. It will sink like nobody's business. And then if we have a period of dry, it is hard as concrete. It is ridiculous. So you have to create the footings correctly in order for your foundation to be done correct. They couldn't do pre-poured here. And in some areas that wouldn't work out, but you could do it on piers. You could do pre-poured piers and then put the modular home on that. And then you would have a crawl space underneath. That would work. That would work. Vanessa Love says, I love the idea of modular, but I cannot afford the prep of the land. And that is where people get so lost in the sauce. They think, and you're not the only one, they think that you could take any piece of land and you can build a house on it. And nobody really explains to people before they get into this process how incredibly expensive it is to develop a piece of property. That's why a lot of times when you see some of these subdivisions, it's not just the red tape, it's the cost of them trying to develop it itself, to get it tied into local sewer, to get it tied into local water, getting the utility companies out there, pricing that out. It takes so much time, so much expense. God forbid that any of that land ends up being part of the wetlands. Then you have to mitigate that. I mean, there's so much involved with a piece of land. People have this idea of like Little House on the Prairie, like, I'm just going to build a cabin out here and everything is going to be great. No, not when you get this city involved and you have to dig that well. How far does that well have to go down? You know, that can cost you tens of thousands of dollars if you're getting a well and it's in an area that's super rocky and they have to keep drilling and drilling. The further you go down, the more it's going to cost. Yeah, you're right. The cost of developing a piece of dirt is extremely expensive. Hold on one second. I have to turn up this air conditioning. By accident, I had left my air conditioning off and it was extremely hot in here. So I turned it down all the way down before I started this stream. And now I'm like freezing. I'm dying. Hold on. I'll be right back. And he put on some music. That was great. That was great. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll discuss. We'll talk. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about your real estate needs. Let's do it. Peggy, welcome. Nice to see you. Peggy, I have a property in different townships in my county in Pennsylvania. One has zoning and the other does not. Do you have to Peggy, I have to ask you this. Do you have to, if you were going to build on that piece of property, the one that doesn't have zoning, do you have to like declare zoning or do they declare zoning? How does that work? Ooh, I'm going to have to look at this. I'm very interested in this. MO is a steal. Poured foundations are not allowed in many areas now. Same with basements. Oh, interesting. We don't have basements here in Louisiana. Cue the dramatic music. Yes, Eddie did that. Eddie's so funny. He is. I know he's doing this thing where he has the computer on in front of him. And he is listening, but occasionally something will happen on the TV screen with his football and he'll get distracted for a few seconds. And then I'm like, Eddie, put it on the screen. And he didn't hear it because he was looking at that play. Yes, overjoyed. Yes, it's coffee talk. Coffee talk. I have not watched SNL in years. I think I'm beyond that age. I don't get it as much as I used to. Maggie says, I have a rain barrel and the water guy gave me one for free and came out after hours and installed it. Did you know, Maggie, that in some areas it is illegal to collect your own water? Isn't that wild? The government in that area can tell you cannot collect your own water. And that was one of those things that happened to a lot of people when they were trying to set up homesteads in their area. You know, a lot of people during the pandemic decided, oh, you know what, I'm just going to go live off the land. And they would set up these rain collection type barrels. And then the county came out, knocked on their door and said, nope, you can't have those. They're not allowed. They're illegal. I was like, how is water from the sky that you collect in a bowl illegal? And I mean, these weren't like open barrels, right? They were covered barrels. They just happened to have a spout that came down and collected the water. It wasn't something like it was going to harvest mosquitoes or anything like that. It was very well done. And they said, nope, nope, nope. Crazy. Does anyone know what Kyle's channel is? Yes, it's Win the House You Love. Win the House You Love. That is his channel. He has excellent advice on there. Excellent advice. He's a good friend of mine. He's a good dude. Chacho says, what's with all these ladies asking about Kyle? I'll give you a good clue. It's because he's a handsome man. And he's very smart. He's a very intelligent dude. And he's super nice too. Yep. Falsificationism says, yes, I wanted to get a rain barrel and the city told me I needed to install it because of the mosquito issues. I couldn't install it. Potential flooding on the neighborhood property, etc. Yeah, like a lot of them say that. But how is that any different? Let me just ask this. This is where it makes absolutely no sense to me at all. How many people have you seen in your lifetime that put in an above ground pool in their backyard? And I've seen those things be ridiculously large. How is that any different than a rain barrel? How is that any different? It's not. But because it's a swimming pool that's treated with chemicals and open, that's fine. But you can't have a rain collection barrel that's completely sealed. Something smells fishy to me. I don't like it. Tom said, leave the glass of water out for a week and see what happens. Yeah, I realize that. But these water collection devices and not devices, but the way that they've done these rain barrels, it's not an open barrel like sitting out like that. They're encased things, containers. They're all, and they have it set up in a way that it's not going to cause like the mosquito problem that they are saying that it will. I've seen lots of people do it across the country. I follow a lot of people that are homesteaders that live in rural areas, and they collect their own water and they don't have an issue. And then not only that, before it even gets in the house, it goes through several purification processes beforehand. So Peter says, well, collecting rainwater is illegal in Colorado. It wasn't enforced. Interesting. But I guarantee if they didn't like somebody, they would enforce it. Yes. Kyle does have a very good voice. I say he has a voice like moisturizer. I have a friend that used to say that. He has a voice like moisturizer. Maggie says, if we collect water, we might grow some of our own food. Suppose that's dangerous. Yeah. I occasionally I'll collect some seeds of something. I'm like, oh, I go down that. And a lot of times in the spring, we haven't done it as much recently, but a lot of times in the spring we'll do a little bit of farming and stuff. And then I love to can. And there's always that sense of accomplishment when you see all this stuff canned. And you're like, I made that. That's mine. It comes from the earth, Mother Earth. I made this. I also do sour bread too. I'm a big sour bread person. Who's up first says, question, what's the idea behind raising a platform, raised platform flooring or step up and down into a room? To me, this is bad design and dangerous. Accidents waiting to happen. Do they serve any function or purpose? They are just for aesthetics. They are just for aesthetics. And I have lived in an Eddie and I's one of the condos that we lived in. They had a step down. And the only time it really became a problem for us is if we had an evening with lots of libations. We didn't have any issues any other time. But I could see how, like, if you were elderly or even you had young toddlers, I mean, they lose their footing quite often, especially little kids, man. They will tumble over like nobody's business. Um, they're just for aesthetics. There's no real reason to have that kind of like step down or dropped in living room. Years ago, I don't know how old the audience is, but I don't know if you remember everybody had those sunken in couches in the 70s. I had a friend when they built their new house, they had the sunken in couch. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Now that I look back on it, I'm like, I don't know if that was really smart, but I thought it was awesome to go watch TV at their house in that sunken in couch in the living room. It was all flush. It all looked flat. And then the couch you jumped into. Greg says it takes resources from the ecosystem. It happens often in states that deal with drought. Oh, so collecting rainwater causes problems to the ecosystem? Oh, I guess because the ground isn't getting that water, you're collecting it. And so, that's interesting. Are you still making dolls? I probably will. I go through hobby to hobby. I do. I can't believe you remembered that. Yeah, I made those for my girls last year. I should next week. I'll show you my dolls. I made them that looked just like them. I made them their own Coraline dolls that looked like them. Libations. You know what a libation is. I don't want to get flagged. So I was being good. Yes, 70s conversational pits. That's what they were. But this was like, I think this was like in 84 they did this. It was a new house. And yeah, it was in 83 or 84. They had built this brand new house and they had that. I loved going over there. It was so cool. They had an A-framed house. It was a completely A-framed house. And it had this conversational pit. And they had one of those projector TVs. Do you know what I'm talking about? It had like the four colors of lights behind the TV or in front of the TV that projected onto the screen. It was huge. They had the coolest house I've ever seen as a kid. Maggie says, if I want to water my garden, it still gets there. Yeah. I mean, a lot of these people that are collecting water, especially people that are homesteading, are using it for all sorts of purposes. They're using it inside. They're using it outside. They're using it to wash their car. I mean, they're doing it not just outside. They're using it for the inside too. Samantha says, yes, we're not supposed to have rainwater collectors here where I am in Kansas. I'm going to dig into this further. Why can't we have rainwater collection? I mean, I know what you're saying about the ecosystem, but I want to like read from the experts why that is. Government won't allow rain collecting because they can't tax it. Oh, that's probably the real reason. Wes, you were onto something there. You're onto something there. Learn to grow, heal, and thrive says, I'd rather have rainwater in a rain barrel than soaking it into my than it's soaking into my foundation. You know what? And that's true here in Louisiana. I mean, because like remember I was telling you earlier that our ground is two ways. Either it's complete mush or it's hard as a rock. So when you have those fluctuations of the ground constantly in an area, you have foundation issues. Like there's two types of houses here in Louisiana: houses that are going to have or that have foundation issues, and ones that are going to have foundation issues. There's no way to get around it. And whenever you're taking water away from the house, that's why you have the downspouts and all that other stuff to drain the water away from your foundation so it doesn't fluctuate as much as it could. You're right. Good call. My best friend had one in the 80s. Yeah, see? Yeah, the sunken in living rooms. Everybody needs a sunken in couch. I thought it looked cool. They had that one of those cool like lights that went over it. You know, like it was one big giant light that went over almost towards the center of the conversational area. So cool. MH08 says some farmer or rancher owns the rights to the water falling off of your roof. Is that how they claim it? Are they gonna knock on my door? You're gonna feed my corn. They're gonna knock on the door and tell me I gotta give it back to them. You know, there's always some negative Nelly out there that always wants to poop on your parade when you want to do anything in your yard. I don't know if you guys realize this, but this studio right here in my backyard, I had to have, of course, approval by the HOA. And that was like pulling teeth. I gave them the plans. I showed them where I wanted to put it. I specifically put it in this location because I had seen other people have like sheds and all sorts of stuff in their backyard. So I wanted to be identical to what they had. So that way they would approve it faster. I gave them the paint colors. I gave everything. And it was like 6 weeks before they approved it. And they were like, oh yeah, that's fine. Everybody's got to say something. And then when I got it put in, they were like, we could see a little bit from the street. I'm like, who can like the guy that's 6'7"? He can go see it. Who can see that? Well, it turns out a neighbor could see it from their backyard because it's in my backyard and they could see it in their backyard. There's always somebody that has something to say when you got something and they don't. HOAs ain't okay. They can be okay. I'm not pooping on all HOAs, but some of them. My HOA owes me freaking money and they're supposed to send me a check. Pat's fan says, Kristina, great show as usual. Thank you, Pat's fan. I appreciate that. RD says, my mother has a sunken in living room. Then it flooded during the storms. Ew. Flooding is the worst. I mean, I will take a hurricane anytime, because things can be fixed. It's easier to clean up. It's easier to get things done. Flooding is a freaking no joke. It is the worst. Jay says, we live in Arizona and the homes we lived in don't have rain gutters. Yep. And we have heavy rain at times. Our homes here in Louisiana, as much as we flood here, do not come with gutters. That was the biggest shock to me. Not one home in any development, unless you get into the really high price developments, come with gutters. You have to put them on after you move in. Most neighborhoods don't come with sod in the backyard. Most homes don't come with fencing in the backyard. You have to put those in yourself. Yep. Debbie wants you to know to smash the like button. Yeah, the HOA did approve. Yeah, so Lawnmower asked, I thought your HOA approved the structure. They did approve the structure, but after it's put in, anybody can complain about anything. And I got we have this portal, and I got a message that said, we're going to come out there to look at the structure that you put on your property. We've gotten a complaint that they can see your structure from the road, which you can't. Honestly, you would have to be like 8'2" to stand up tall enough to see it from the road. And then it was approved and everything was fine. Ended up talking to somebody else that's on the HOA board, and it was somebody could see it from their backyard. I could see their palm trees from my backyard. People are stupid. You know how that is. The HOAs are the new mob. And I've talked about HOAs before. HOAs now have been taken over by a lot of management companies. Those management companies are run in a way to make profit. They don't really make profit from us as the residents until they start implementing fines. And that's why they go around and start canvassing the neighborhood on a regular basis to enact those fines because that's where they make their money. So you start seeing all sorts of ridiculous things that you've never seen before. There are people that have had HOAs for 10 years, get this new management company, and they're getting all sorts of warnings about, certain decor that they've had out for years. They leave their garage door open when that wasn't supposed to be because it wasn't during certain times. They didn't even know it was in their HOA restrictions because no one had ever complained about it before. But because the management company took over and they're going through this fine tooth comb to figure out how they can fine you, that's what they'll do every single time. And do you know that a good portion of HOA companies, management companies, do you know who owns them? I know this is going to blow your mind. I know this is going to shock you. Do you know who owns a good portion of them? Hedge funds. Corporate America. They love them. And, they're getting sneakier and sneakier because they're starting to buy out like HVAC system companies. They're starting to buy out alarm companies. They're investing a lot of high dollars to sit on the boards for a lot of these companies to maximize profit. And I think that, a lot of people are getting squeezed out of their homes because of this. That's for sure. Oh, Debbie Brady's such a nice moderator. Look at her. She said, calling the number, the pre-screen for next week's show. The number is 888-255-0197. I will put your question that you want on the screen. So the poll results are in. And it said half said that, yes, they knew about it. Other half said, no, they didn't. And half said yes. Half said no, and then 9% said that they were too scared to call in. Okay, I'm going to let you guys know, if you're too scared to call and you don't want to say your name because you're afraid, like your neighbor might hear what you have to ask, make up a name. Why? Who cares? I'm not going to know. You can say your name is Maggie Simpson for all I care. You can say your name is Homer Simpson. Peter Griffin. Make up a name. I don't care. Then Corey Katz says, hi y'all, this is my first time live. So cool to make it. I'm so glad you made it in too. I want to know, Zen, how many cats do you have? Oh, Eddie gave you a round of applause. That was so nice. That was so nice. All right. Maggie is back. She says, when the gas business arrived in PA, they promoted an area without zoning to stay that way. No noise rules, no inset boundaries for building, etc. The other township already had zoning. So you don't have to zone that area. You could use that piece of land for whatever you want. So you could start a business there if you wanted to without any repercussions. That's very interesting. I kind of like that in some cases. This is how this area that I live in used to be. It's no longer like that. Everything is restricted, but By the way, I'm editing a video about HOAs. I'm editing it out for Wednesday, so that'll be. You guys want to talk about HOAs? I got a video for you. I have parrots. I used to have cats. I bet the cats would have really loved those parrots. Oh no, not the dead parrot skit from Monty Python. My brothers can quote that. HOA's notices were called love letters by a friend who no longer lives there. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The love letters that you get from the HOAs. I've told this story many times, but I'm going to tell it again. I had, when we moved here, my kids were small, old enough to ride their bikes on their own without me having to supervise them 24/7, but young enough that they were coming in and out of the garage all the time. We even have a refrigerator set up in the garage so they could get drinks whenever they wanted to, so they didn't have to come through the house. At that time, they were outside on our driveway, doing chalk drawings and riding their bikes back and forth. And they had their scooters out. I mean, they were going crazy. And the garage door was up. And we got a HOA love letter saying that we weren't allowed to keep our garage door up. And I'm like, you know what? That had been the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. HOAs are the devil. They can be good because I lived in a neighborhood that did not have an HOA. And I'm telling you what, at the beginning, it was fine. It was totally fine. Everybody kept up their yards And it only takes one. Once one starts looking like garbage, all of a sudden people are like, oh, well, they're not doing it. And then it starts going down after that. We had this neighbor that lived next door. He would let his whole entire family park their cars in his front lawn. Then they would drive down the side and they'd start parking in the backyard of their house. So then all of a sudden, over the weekend, you had like 8 or 9 cars in the front yard and the backyard. You just clogging up the whole yard. Then people started getting boats and RVs, and they're clogging up the whole entire street because they didn't have enough room to park it in their driveway. So they're parking on the street there. There's no regulations on that. Then you have people parking their fishing boats, and the yards were small. So you saw, like, from the front, you saw all these fishing boats and everything sitting there. And not everybody takes care of their fishing boats the way, that you probably do. And it just started making things look junky and crappy, and things started going to the wayside. Then the front area started looking bad, and it was full of weeds, and people had to like volunteer their own time to take care of it. And nobody wants to do that. So, I mean, it has its pros, it has its cons. You have to, weigh those out. It's just that more and more areas that are popping up. If you're living in a brand new neighborhood, 99.9% chance it's going to be in an HOA. You can't get around it. The county will require it in order for that neighborhood to get approved in the first place. So, yeah, I get it. HOAs can be the devil. That can be true. That can be true. Some of the rules are so stupid. Oh, D Jack says he's going to be watching on Wednesday about HOAs. I hope you like it. Oh, somebody said, very smart, Kelly. She said, read the documents before you buy. Yes, read the documents before you buy. If you really want to be like heartbroken, read this documents all the way back. If you're moving into an old neighborhood, you should read some of the HOA rules that used to be in some of the documents. Here in Louisiana, my jaw dropped to the floor. I didn't even know that was real. I had no idea that you could exclude certain people in a neighborhood according to the HOA. But obviously they can't do that now, but that's when the HOA was developed. That's what they were doing in them. Oh, gross, right? So gross. The world is interesting, and you always should look at their their most current amended documents. And if you're having a hard time getting that from the sellers and the selling real estate agent, you can ask the title office, because when they're pulling up title for your area, they're also having to pull up HOA restrictions, because they have to take that money out to pay the HOA when the house closes. So ask them for the documentation so you can review it. It's never light reading. Take your time, go over it. If you want a condensed version of those documents, I'm going to tell you a little trick is you can scan those all into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to break this down into layman's terms in order for you to understand, because 90% of the time those things are written by attorneys, and you have to read it 17 times to understand what they were trying to say. So it's your little cheat code for that. It's a little cheat code. It's kind of like reading the amendments when you're going to vote. I had to do that. I was reading the amendments and I'm like, they wrote that in a way that was so confusing, and it didn't need to be. But, lawyers write those. So that's what happens. All right, everybody. I want to thank the moderators today for keeping the chat clean. I want to thank everybody that showed up today. There was a lot of new people that came in. I hope you consider subscribing. If you guys need to get a hold of me, you can always go to my website and type in KristinaSmallhorn.com. You'll see anywhere you can see a pink button. Click on it, fill out the form, and I'll give you a ringy ding or email back. Just click right there and boom. You can book a call with me, book a time, and I'll talk to you. I'll give you a little advice. I'm going to plug that phone number one more time, because I really want you guys to call in, and I want to hear your questions. So that number is 255-0197. And I want you guys to give me a call, leave your real estate questions there, and we can put them up on the screen and answer them live next week. Next week, we will answer those live next week. If you didn't watch last week's show, it was so funny. Some lady called and said, like, why am I keeping the fact that I'm a real estate agent a secret? Not a secret real estate agent here. I just don't happen to meet with clients to show houses like I used to. That's the only thing. Still licensed. All right. If you want to listen to this as a podcast and share this with your friends, you can go to anywhere you listen to podcasts. Go to Kristina Smallhorn, Real Estate for Everyone, and you can share this with your friends and family. Eddie uploads those on Monday. So if there's anything that you guys want me to talk about next week, and if you're curious about anything, just go ahead and put in the comment section below, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope you have a super mega awesome week ahead of you. It's spooky season. Look, that looks like my cat Soapy. It's spooky season. Eddie, go ahead and roll that closing outro. You guys are ready to jam out.
Kristina signing off. This stream's about to close. Tiny homes, big dreams, the wisdom she bestows. Real estate queen, always keeping us in toes. Hustle on 1,000, every vibe she shows. Goodbye, Kristina, see you next time. In a world full of chaos, you bring the prime. From modular homes to the mortgage climb. Catch you on the flip in the next rhyme. From mobile homes to mansion goals, Kristina's wisdom breaking molds. Dropping knowledge like we dropping gold. Fuel is locked in.